morning, everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. I'm Aisling Murray. I'm the director and founder of Beta Festival, and we're so excited to be kicking off with the conference today and really bring together people interested in the same ideas. So I'm really delighted to be introducing Brian Lavery, who's here this morning. He's a member of the Arts Council and a champion of the digital policy from the beginning. We're delighted to have him here to officially launch the Arts Council digital art policy. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Brian, and thank you, Aisling. First things first, I am joined today by Ella Ciechocka, who is our Irish Sign Language interpreter. So thank you, Ella, for all of your work with us today. It's really exciting to be here. And this was kind of not the Friday that I had in mind, but this is really delightful. I heard a bunch of people coming in saying this is the coolest place to be in Dublin this weekend. So thank you all for coming and making time out of your day, and to hear me for a few minutes introduce this policy, which the Arts Council is really excited about. It's a particular pleasure to be sharing it all with you. This is our digital arts policy, laying out what the Council is going to be doing to support digital artists and digital arts and arts organizations that are embarking on a digital journey in the coming years. And everyone in this room and everyone on stage here has done more than most to advance digital arts in Ireland. So this has really been a learning conversation, which I'll reference in a moment. So first of all, at the end, we will have a QR code up on screen, which I would encourage you to scan, and that's the most appropriate way to access this on the Arts Council's website. We do have a couple of large print versions for people who are visually impaired or have trouble accessing it here as well. So when I was preparing for today, I intended to summarize the policy, save you all the trouble of reading it, and to make a joke about how no one really reads policy documents. Then I saw the list of who was attending today and read through some of the names that I knew and said, actually, I think there are a bunch of people here who actually are going to read it, which is great. So thank you for the time that you may be taking to engage with this as well. I will still summarize some of the key points for you, so don't worry. A couple of other quick thank yous. Thank you to Aisling for having us here today. Aisling Murray, who's leading the Beta Festival, and congratulations on the festival, hopefully the first of many, and looking forward to Arts Council engagement there. And I hope you're all planning to stick around for the exhibition, which is around the corner, which is phenomenal, and some of the other talks throughout the next couple of days. Thanks to FIAC and everyone here at the Digital Hub for hosting us in this beautiful building, and thanks also for all that you've done in recent years to make this such a vibrant part of the city. Really appreciate it and noted. And also thanks to everyone here and anyone who might be watching on our YouTube live stream or who can't make it, who has contributed to the policy. There are a lot of artists, a lot of organizations who contributed advice and your voices and opinions to help make a plan like this come together. Because that's what it really is a plan. I don't know if some people I'm sure have, but maybe not everyone has read an Arts Council policy before. We have a lot. The best part is at the back, because that's where all the actions are. That's where the plan actually does come to life. And we say, here's specifically what we're going to do to achieve the objectives that we've laid out in this policy. So we're going to come back in a couple of moments to the specific actions that we are taking to support digital arts. But first, some context on why we're launching this now. And I'm sure many of you may be saying, like, about time. Digital arts have been under-recognized and under-supported in Ireland for quite a while, despite a long history. This is a personal reflection on it. When I moved to Dublin a little over 25 years ago, the first cultural event that I engaged with, and one of the most exciting, was purely digital. It was a digital film festival called Darklight. Does anyone remember this? Yeah. And it hosted in places that used to be called Art House and the IFC, and here. Okay. And in the couple of decades since then, we've seen talented digital artists hone their craft, largely on their own, but also with the support of other people in this room. But we've also seen some of the great digital talent moving abroad and working from outside of Ireland, perhaps because of a lack of support here. Meanwhile, perhaps ironically, Irish public policy has promoted and relied upon the development and adoption of digital technologies to drive our economy, but in the arts space, not quite as much. The Arts Council has recognized the need for more here. In 2015, the Arts Council published its Making Great Artwork Strategy, which is a 10-year document, really impressive, has stood the test of time, despite a bunch of challenges. And that strategy in 2015 explicitly stated we will reflect the particular significance for the arts of digital knowledge and skills by collaborating to build digital capacity in the arts sector. Our support will focus on new ways of making work and new possibilities for public engagement. That was in 2015. Things changed in COVID, and that brought real new urgency to the need for digital supports. During lockdowns, nearly every art organization, nearly all art in Ireland and in most countries during lockdowns was distributed and consumed digitally. That forced organizations and artists to adapt incredibly rapidly. I had some experience of that with Aideen and Aideen at the ARC. There are two Aideens, by the way. And we saw an immediate need to adapt the way that we operated to reach children across Ireland. The ARC is a children's cultural centre, which also posed additional challenges around digital. That was an incredibly stressful and costly time for an arts organisation like that, but there was also a real thrill in being able to adapt an operating model and to reach new audiences and to create new types of work. There was an incredible sense of potential in learning and changing the way that the organisation operated at that time. COVID, of course, made clear that artists, whether they were purely dedicated to digital art or incorporating digital into more traditional forms, needed more support from the Arts Council. So, development of this policy began in earnest about 2 years ago, in 2021. Denise and CultureWorks was appointed as our specialist advisor. We set up a steering committee, including a number of people in the room: Derek, Nora, Kalpana, Fergus, Tom, and Helen. Thank you all for the contributions. We surveyed nearly 1,000 artists and arts organizations about digital needs and how they were operating in the digital space. And we continued a series of in-depth interviews with many of them, including, I'm sure, some of you. Those consultations surfaced some familiar challenges and also some new ones. Certainly a lack of expertise for many organizations, lack of digital expertise in the arts sector generally, high costs, particularly in terms of capital investment, competition from streaming services and that we're all familiar with, digital access barriers for some audiences, and a lack of understanding from some support organizations, the Arts Council being one of them. We heard about artists who struggled to submit their applications because they were using technology that our application assessors weren't familiar with, so they had to explain it. And it was a little bit complicated, and we had a strict word count limit on our digital application. By the time they explained what they were going to be using, they didn't have space to also say what they wanted to do with it. So there's some basic obstacles there to be addressed as well. So this policy tackles those obstacles in a couple of different ways. It starts by building understanding within the council itself so that we are better positioned to support the digital art sector. We also started with some back to basics questions about what is digital art, also by starting with what it's not. So there's nothing in here about marketing or IT capabilities. This policy is not going to help anyone get more followers on Instagram. I was pleased to see I don't know if you noticed the slide before that said crypto and NFT are for weenies. That didn't come from the policy, that's not a quote from the council, but we did explicitly remove from early drafts of the policy some references to technologies like NFTs, which during COVID, that seemed like an obvious thing to include. But no, this is really stepping back to say the sector will figure out where it wants to go. We just need to figure out how to adapt and support appropriately. We do define digital art in three ways: through content, tools, and distribution. Content means that digital art can draw directly on digital technology and culture for its subject matter. So that could be art driven by data, created by software, artificial intelligence, etc. On the tools side, this is art that can rely on digital technology to achieve its artistic purpose. So through different forms of presenting the actual work, and it can be distributed, of course, through online and different platforms and devices. So with that definition in place, we are addressing those challenges through a series of actions aligned with that original strategy from 10 years ago, or 2015, Making Great Art Work. I'm going to run through those very quickly and then wrap up and hand over to the panel. Those 5 pillars and the actions that we are proposing that the council will be taking are aligned with, first, the artist. That's the first area of focus in the Arts Council strategy. Artists are crucial in exploring the impact of technology on society, and the policy supports artist-led innovation in all sorts, every art form, and it specifically encourages and supports international collaboration as well. The second is on developing capacity. So a number of our actions are focused on understanding professional development needs, identifying the required skills, and offering the training to achieve them. Mentorship and residency programs are also notable in here. Third is on public engagement and audience development. The policy aims to expand access to the arts through digital channels. That means addressing access barriers and promoting a diverse range of digital arts offerings. Fourth is spatial and demographic planning. Digital distribution offers opportunities for wider public engagement, especially in rural areas, so the policy is aligned with other government policies to improve internet connectivity, etc. It also particularly supports the archiving of digital art. And finally, investment, which the Arts Council is perhaps best known for. The Council recognizes the high costs that are associated with digital arts activity and the need for flexibility in funding, where there can be a high upfront investment at the start of much digital arts work. So we will be exploring, as articulated in the policy, funding pathways for digital arts and advocacy for capital investment. I'm thrilled to say that many of those actions are already underway. We're launching the policy today to share it with all of you. It hasn't been published until today, but many of the actions have already commenced internally. Part of that has involved building up within the Council the appropriate resource and staffing to deliver on it. We've hired a number of people in this room to keep us honest and ensure that this policy is achieved in the coming years. So Elaine Doyle, our program delivery manager, is here, and Denise, our digital advisor, Kate Costello, our digital narrator, and I'm very pleased to announce that in 2024, we will be appointing a specialist digital assessor to assist with assessing applications that involve digital arts. So, in closing, this policy, which we're very proud of, lays out clear steps to support the success of digital art work across all art forms, including dedicated digital arts. And it is a major recognition of digital arts, not just as one of the most exciting areas of creative endeavour in Ireland, but also one of the most essential. So when the QR code pops up, please scan it, read the policy sometime over the weekend, and enjoy the rest of the festival. I'm going to hand over now to Denise and the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for launching the policy, and again, welcome everybody, and thanks to Aisling and Anne and the team at Beta Festival for supporting us for this launch this morning. Thank you again for joining us and for this panel discussion on perspectives from art and tech collectives. We're very fortunate to have panelists representing different art and tech collectives here beside me this morning. They're from all over Ireland. I'll introduce them now in a moment and let them talk about their practice and their organisation. But as Brian mentioned, my name is Denise McDonough. I'm from an organisation called CultureWorks, based in the west of Ireland. I'm Digital Arts Advisor for the Arts Council. I'm going to chair this panel, and we were appointed in 2021. We've been working very closely with the Arts Council since then to develop and deliver the policy, and we're absolutely delighted that it's out in the public, and we look forward to having you engage with it over the coming years. We're delighted to host the panel and to discuss the challenges and opportunities working in digital arts in Ireland. The panellists luckily had the privy of reading over the policy for the last week. I'm going to talk to them about their first impressions of the policy, see what their understanding of it is. But I might just introduce you to each of them and let them talk about their practice and their organisation. So I might start with Aisling, feeling here. Ladies first. Aisling is a multidisciplinary visual artist working across 3D, animation, photography, video, virtual reality and live interactive technologies. So Aisling might just talk to us a bit about Dublin Art and Technology Association, DATA.
Yeah, surely. Thanks all for coming. So yeah, I run an organisation with Paul O'Neill and Tom O'Dea, who are here today. It was founded back in 2002, and there's been a really amazing kind of history of people involved in running a very important organisation that basically creates kind of an informal space for people to share new ideas and kind of opportunities to share work basically in the art and technology sphere. So we run monthly events, try to do them monthly, always free, and just kind of to create a space where people can engage and maybe test out ideas, and we do like open projector nights, and yeah, really just to kind of keep the community of art and technology alive in Dublin.
Thanks, that's great. And Scott here beside me, Scott Robinson, is a new media artist, digital and film, works across installation, live performance, video and dance. Scott is part of a collective called Concept Null. Concept Null are going to be hosting an event here on Sunday, which you should all go to. Concept Null are relatively new, and Scott's going to talk a bit about his practice and Concept Null for me.
Yeah, thanks for coming, everyone. Yeah, so we run Concept Null down in Limerick, but it's nationwide, essentially, what we do. So we just connect anyone who identifies part or is even interested in new media art as part of their practice. And basically, we run these kind of newsletters that kind of connect people across the country and expose, like funding opportunities, events that are happening, anything like that. And then we also run kind of periodic meetups as well. So we really try and promote visibility within new media art. Anyone who sees like working with, I suppose, technology at that intersection of art, but also, I suppose, people who work with technology in a creative capacity, and who really kind of have it as part of their creative process, and they're not a technician, they're an artist, and there's a big differentiation there. So yeah, that's what Concept Null does, and we're running a meetup on Sunday at 2 o'clock until 5, so pop along if you want. It'll be a pretty good meetup, I think. Yeah. Cheers.
Thanks, Scott. We have Richard Davis here in the end. Richard is an artist, animator, and musician based in Belfast. Richard is going to talk to us about Digital Art Studios Belfast.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for inviting me down here. Like, it's great to represent the Digital Art Studios in Belfast at this event. So I'm a practicing artist and I work in digital arts, but I'm down sort of representing the Digital Art Studios, and I work there as a creative technician. And the Digital Art Studios in Belfast has been running for 20 years now, and was set up by Queen Street Studios to support artists who work with technology, which we continue to do through artist residencies. We have 4 artists working with us for 4 months at a time to develop their skills, their creative practice, give them access to equipment, all the kind of things that they wouldn't have really to push them forwards. We also do workshops, we do one-to-one technical support help, we have a membership scheme. I'm probably going to forget other things, but we do a lot to support the artist community in Northern Ireland, and that is artists who work with technology, not exclusively digital artists, because obviously 20 years ago that would have been a very different scene. And that's obviously one of the topics that is covered in the policy. I think it's artists who work with technology. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say. We'll leave it there. Thanks.
Okay. And then we have Joey Maguire. Joey is a multidisciplinary artist specialising in creating theatre-informed immersive experiences, utilising sound, projection, lasers and lightings. Joey is going to talk to us about Chimple, based in Cork. So we have the whole country covered here, I think, today on the panel, which is great.
Yeah, yeah, Chimple is a collective I'm part of. It was kind of formed a few years ago through just doing the music tech course down in the School of Music in Cork. And yeah, it's essentially a lot of audio-visual lighting experiences, trying to just tap into immersion, and then yeah, I guess a lot of tech is involved in doing this kind of thing, which brought me into the digital art world in particular from a musical background. So, but yeah, Chimple, it's been yeah, it's been a wild ride so far. But yeah, delighted to be here now today to kind of just get down to the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. Anyway, but yeah, that's it.
So over the week they've had, as I said, the bit of time to look at the policy. So I just want to get some first impressions. And Aisling, I might ask you, well, I'll ask all of you, but Aisling, I might start with you. What do you think the policy might do for your practice or for the work of the collective?
Yeah, I think we had a little chat there before, and we were like, what can we say is wrong with it? And we were like, it's just so great that it exists. Like, I think just to have the support of knowing that there's a box to be able to tick, you know, that it's going to, I think, as well as what Brian said, of you spend a lot of time explaining the tech so that they can understand, like in applications, what you're even going to be doing, and then you don't, I found I never get to the conceptual part because there's so much to kind of explain in how you're going to do it. But yeah, I think just having the support, like financially as well. I think cost is a huge barrier for a lot of things, and I think if you having a policy like this and being able to kind of see an avenue for yourself is very promising for me. Yeah.
Scott, what about you?
Yeah, super positive overall. Definitely, just the recognition side of it, like Aisling mentioned, is probably one of the biggest things. Visibility is so important, and to really recognize and say, oh, what I'm making actually is art. And yeah, I think in that capacity, it's just I think, like if you were to wave a magic wand in the morning and everything on the policy were magically just to happen in the next few months, you know, we'd have such a different landscape, and a really kind of one that's really full of life and quite vibrant in terms of a digital capacity. So it's very exciting from that point of view. So yeah, I'm looking forward to its implementation, and especially having the action to back that up. And I do believe that it will happen. It definitely will take a time, but I think it hopefully will be something that's kind of exponential, something that happens like in a growth context. And if the community gets behind it, then really I think it'll grow fast.
Joey, what was your first impressions?
Yeah, definitely shared similar views to the lads there. I think something that I found really reassuring about it was the part of the document where it was like feedback that had been gotten from just different surveys and that, and like just being able to empathize with different people who are in the same position as well, and you're just like, oh yeah, okay, we're all having this same kind of struggle in ways, like particularly like cost of entry, stuff like that, and then just blurring the lines between tech and artist and production manager and you name it, like you're kind of that in this world, like so yeah, I found it was just a nice thing to kind of reaffirm thoughts I already had, but also then some new information that was like, oh, happy days, this could go somewhere now, like, you know. So yeah.
And Richard, you're representing Digital Art Studios in Belfast, so your position's a little bit different than everyone else in the panel because you have a space. So I'd be interested in your opinion, obviously living and working in the north, and what you think this could achieve in the context of opportunities for Northern Irish artists working in the south, and then also for the development of artists from the south working in the north.
Yeah, it's great to see this policy happen. We don't have a digital arts policy with the Arts Council of Northern Ireland as yet, although we are lucky to have a new sort of funding opportunities for artists and organisations working in digital arts. So that's great. So it's a good starting point. So I think I'm just going to look at my notes that I wrote in the train here today. The way I can sort of see this is like we, in the past, have offered our residencies to artists across the UK and Ireland, which we can still do. So artists around Ireland can apply to come up and use our facilities and resources, which would be self-funded. But the great thing is that this funding opportunities through the Arts Council in Ireland could offer you the money to be able to come up and check out what's happening in Belfast with networking equipment, all of the kind of stuff that we can offer. And I think that's really exciting for opening up the doors for artists working in Ireland to come up to us. And in regards to Northern Ireland, I really hope that, you know, it's all about reaching out, and we're really excited to be a part of this festival and this conference today, because we were always talking about coming down to Dublin and just meeting and networking with organisations and collectives and artists down here. So, you know, to be able to offer organisations, collectives, artists money, time, all the things that they need to be able to then invite us down, really, I think is the kind of the key thing, and just to really start working together and inspire each other, etc. So
great, thanks. I just might ask the rest of the panel, what do you think the main challenges in Ireland, North and South, for working in the medium of digital art at the minute? Aisling?
Yeah, I think a lot of the time digital art can have an ephemeral aspect to it because it's not often, or it doesn't always have to be physicalized in a way, but I think that when, with the support to kind of bring it out into the public, I think that will be a really great thing to see. Yeah, I think some of the challenges, I think one thing I was really delighted to see was the mention of archival aspect to digital work, because I think with that ephemerality you create something, it's presented in an exhibition context or in whatever way you decide to display the work, and then it's just a file on your laptop and it never sees the light of day. So it's exciting to think that there could be a space where there's years and years of work that you can, go and access the same way we go and see different archives. So I think that could be a challenge in a very technical sense of files and where that's going to live. And then also I think they reference the challenge of access to that as well, and whether it needs to be physical or digital. And yeah, I think there's definitely some things to kind of iron out in whose work gets saved, and yeah, I think there's some things, but it's in the document. I think they've been very kind of honest in what they know and what they don't know, and I think that was something I really appreciated, a lot of openness of saying that they want to learn, which was great to see.
Well, technology is changing so fast, the Arts Council can't be experts, so yeah, that's why they're looking at collaborative approaches with everybody in the sector. Scott, what about you? What do you...
Yeah, I could sit here for 7 hours and explain all the issues we have, but there's a lot, but it's improving over time, and I'm finding the inclusivity is getting better. One of our bigger ones is definitely space. Studio space as a digital artist, spaces to exhibit work, spaces to prototype things, collaborate with people, spaces that have access to tech or have something built in, digital facilities to really showcase what we're doing, or even come up with ideas and do research and development. On top of that, equipment access is a huge one, where the price of equipment is so expensive for some digital things, whereas if there was some kind of resource or sharing, which I saw there is potential plans for that in the document, and there is, finding out what those gaps are, I think is going to be a huge thing. And then I think one of the bigger things as well is just a massive challenge has been, like you're saying, just articulating to a person in your thing what I'm trying to do. I would love, like you're mentioning, you're going to have this digital expert who's going to review those artworks, and I'm really excited by that, because I want someone who can kind of look at my artwork and see the type of pixel interpolation I'm going to be using, the type of effects I'm going to be using, kind of maybe appreciate the digital literacy around what I'm actually creating and understanding that, and kind of heightening, and just kind of we can all then engage and critique, and it would just be something, again, the community grows and develops and the artwork gets better in a digital capacity. So yeah, those have been big challenges, and it's even when you're applying for things, it's you can see the person reading your application got really excited by the idea, but have no idea how to interact with it, and you're just, this I think will really help address that gap. So yeah, those are some big challenges. I have way more, but I'll let other people speak.
Joey, what about you?
Yeah, similar. The space to do things. We've got all sorts of ways of kind of previs on 3D software, and then binaural decoding for immersive audio and all this kind of thing. And they're all very useful tools for perfecting workflows or creating just work, or any kind of a bit of practice or anything, But then it doesn't necessarily translate to the real world. A lot of, it can do, but it's there's nothing quite like just being in a space, just creating for that space, particularly site-specific work. If you're doing anything that's any way oriented around a room that may have an unconventional layout, isn't necessarily a white box or whatever that you have just to play with, or there's just challenges to come along with that kind of render a lot of pre-production useless in the end, So and look, in our experience, we're a lot of our gigs are pop-up kind of one day. You know, you get in the morning, you're lucky if you get in the night before, like, and you might get in the morning, you're setting up a full, you know, a huge array of equipment, like, then you're teching it all day, you know, you're keeping an eye on bits and bobs, and then that's a huge thing as well, like, because, like, you know, you're there to perform nearly. Then, like, I've had to, that's why a lot of the guys in Teample are involved as well, is because some of the creative end of things that I do, I have to delegate away, purely just to tech stuff. So again, being in a space for a certain amount of time in the run up to an event is something that would be great. But even being in a space like that, you can configure all the equipment and then take it down and move it to the event space. That's huge. But yeah, like Scott said, the equipment is another factor altogether. Like, because you're you know, you're trying to find the most, like, cheap open source you know, way of doing things, non-proprietary just way of making things go. And unfortunately, a lot of the time in those situations, reliability can be a factor as well. So, like, yeah, if you dropped, like, big money on a sensor, happy days, it's gonna work. Like, but you know, I mean, if you're like us, like we've been chatting away like that, if you're using the old tech that's, like, not even supported by manufacturers anymore, it's cheap and it's a nice access to the world of it. But, like, yeah, it's a huge kind of you know, when it goes down on the day, you're like, oh no, you know, here we go, like, you know. So yeah, I think space and cost of entry and the tech that goes along with it are, if you're not in an educational institute full time where they have all of this like an access to it, then you're at a massive disadvantage of developing your work, I think. So in our case anyway.
That's great, thanks, Maine. And Richard, what about you?
Yeah. Challenges that we face are not dissimilar. As we're an organisation, we're really lucky. We have a premises. We moved into a new premises about a year ago, and since then we've have actually an exhibition floor and a space that artists our residents can use to test work, and this is really exciting. We've always wanted to have an exhibition space, and it's been proved very successful in the last, about 6 months that we've been running it. So that's great, but on the flip side, we have equipment that we can offer, but the funding it's just not great, and it's the upgrading and the upkeep, and as you said, things change all the time, and that's where, like, in a few years' time, like, where do we get the money to upgrade that equipment? I think that's a huge problem working in this sort of within the digital arts. The other thing was. Really, I guess on your note, there's a lot of artists in the Northern Ireland, including myself. I don't know about in Ireland, but, you know, artists are kind of turning to academia for security, even if it is short term. And it's nice to see this policy is really thinking about, like, how the Arts Council can support artists to do art. They don't necessarily have to turn to do artistic research, because that's different from artistic projects. So that's one of the things. And then also in Northern Ireland, usually when you see digital arts, it's events, festivals, all these kind of things. There's a commercial and industry focus. And again, there's not much of an artistic focus or, like, the arts. And I think that's where we need to really, it's good to see the policy sort of focusing in on that, because yeah, there is, even in academia, they have money, they have this equipment, but it's all behind closed doors. So. Yeah.
That's really interesting as well, because I think when we were doing the research for the policy, when we did talk to artists, their technical skills were bringing them into other areas, other jobs, and was taking them away from their arts practice. And that was one of the things we really did want to consider for the policy. And I think you can all kind of resonate with that. I just want to ask maybe what we've touched on a little bit, but what do you think needs to change to facilitate practicing digital arts in Ireland? I'll ask you, Aisling.
I think that this is a really great first step. I think the thing from the policy that I would love to see really happen is space. I know the guys have said it. I think it really would just facilitate I think the practice being digital, but being in a space with people together, I think is really huge. I think, Yeah, a lot of it is felt quite kind of covered in the policy, so it'd be really great to see that kind of come to fruition, and it seems like the plan is in place to kind of make that happen. I think an awareness of the work will come from the support of it. You know, I think with people maybe experiencing more digital art in exhibitions, maybe, you know, museums kind of dedicated to that. I know a lot of major cities would have specifically media art spaces where if that's what you're interested in, you know, you can go to a space where that's kind of what you're going to get, rather than, you know, it being maybe part of another kind of major institution. But I think those changes will happen when the work is supported, and then when there's place to develop it and fund it and then bring it into the world. But yeah.
Scott?
Yeah, it feels like in a way like the policy is like a big block, and like we're going to be the sculptors of that in a lot of ways, and we kind of you have to kind of carve out what aspect of that is important to you and your niche or your community. And I think if the policymakers consistently engage with the communities, with our organizations, with everything we do, and the artists themselves, that will happen over time, and I think that will be a great thing, you know. And I think like we're with Concept Null, I run it with Walter Need and Roisin Berger sitting over there. But it's funny because this we started the newsletter there, I think about 9 months ago, and it comes out every 2 weeks just to promote visibility. But it came out of frustration and from not having a box to tick when applying for art and kind of validating that. And I remember I wrote this big letter and it got signed off by a load of people, and I was about to send it to the Arts Council, and then it was like, oh, do you know Denise is actually implementing all of the things you're talking about? And I'm like, Christ. So she was kind of a couple of years ahead of us there, like. But then that's how we linked in, and it's funny how now this has come full circle, and it's kind of a beautiful moment for us because it's the start, you know. But we're going to fly the flag of new media art and representing that, and your arts practice and art being part of your creative process, and not something that's necessarily facilitating what you're trying to do, you know. And I think that's a really important thing. What was the question? I can't remember.
What change do you to facilitate your practice? You just said it. So
yeah, grand. No, cool. Nice.
Brilliant.
So.
Thanks. Joey.
Yeah, I mean, like has been said, this is amazing that we're here today, even doing this. Like, it's really reassuring, like, for the future. I think for me, what's been a massive challenge has been the actual application process, say for projects or bursaries or agility awards or any of that stuff. Like, you know, I guess I've put down what I do, and even though I have a musical background, I find that like I'm being referred over to visual arts or spectacle or back or what, because a lot of our Teample events are live events rather than, say, virtual. So like, you know, we'd be going for anything, like any bit of a category that ticks a box. You're like, okay, great. But yeah, to no avail, unfortunately. So, you know, I suppose at this stage it's kind of like, right, well, if the application process is a bit more streamlined to, yeah, just to incorporate exactly what we do, or at least have a bit of, you know, like not being restricted to a word count, that kind of thing when you're describing the work, if it's something that's not quite as conventional or traditional art form, like, you know. So yeah, that's it. I think just the applications. I think you know, there's plenty of courses out there and learning resources that people can avail of to get into this world. No bother, like, you know, like straight away, like what art and technology in UL, there's music and technology in Cork, then there's an array of private courses you can do, loads of online learning resources. So it's all there. It's just I found that making something from, like, I suppose, not to be just like the money, but like, you know, making it a sustainable part of your income, you know, like, or whereby you're not just trading off your tech skills for money, you know, to another artist, which, happy days, more than happy to do it. You know, it's how I've made a living the last couple of years. So it's what you have to do, but at the same time, there's always a part of you where you're kind of like, oh yeah, it'd be nice if I could, you know, put my work on the wall there, you know, or use my sound design. But yeah, I think, you know, the funding process or applications in general, that'd be my change.
And Richard, I suppose to facilitate kind of cross-border any development? What would you see? What would you like to see happening?
I guess that it would sort of echo what I said at the start. Like, just would like to see good use of the time and effort of the Arts Council, the artists, everyone, just to sort of figure out the ways that they can use this, the policy and what comes of it, to be able to talk and to communicate and to work together. You know, one thing that really struck me, like, it's really good to see everyone so excited about it. You know, and I hope this has a knock-on effect in Northern Ireland as well. What was I going to say? It's the listening. It's like they're all saying. It's like we're really excited to have people want to listen to us and ask us, like, what do you need? And I think it's really critical to have somebody in the Arts Council who's just willing to go out and speak to everyone and listen to everyone and move forward from there. Also, the other note that I had down here is that, you know, the policy said, no, we're going to investigate this, we're going to look at this, and it's very open and it's very great. But these people exist here already. These networks, these collectives, these artists, they're all here. So just look for them, find them, and just strengthen them. Like, give them what they need. I think that's really the important thing that I can see from this. So I don't know.
Thanks. So, I mean, I might just wrap with a last question to all of you. You've all kind of went through the implementation plan, the actions, and I'm just wondering, is there a favourite one or one that stood out to you? I mean, you might have mentioned them, but is there maybe one or two or other ones that you haven't mentioned that you're kind of really excited about or can't wait to see? Maybe, Aisling, you might go.
I think this space for me has got to be just the opportunity for there to be, and not even to for finished work, but for there to be a space where people can learn. I think we talked about barrier of cost, but also some of this, some digital stuff is just really complicated and it takes a really long time to figure out. And I think the combination of cost with that, the support with funding and space, I think will be really, really powerful. I think a lot of the stuff that I do in my 3D softwares, I use free softwares and learn free tutorials, and I've never done any training in it. And it still, I get there, but it means I'm spending years on projects, you know, really, really long time. And the community is there, but it's hard to find people, you know. Only a couple of weeks ago, I just made a Discord called Digital Artists in Ireland. And it just came because I put out an open call being like, who uses Unreal Engine? Who uses Touch Designer? I just got to such a frustration as well, you know, to a point where who is using this stuff? I need people to talk to about the challenges, because I think a lot of the time it's just you share a finished piece and it's done. And I think a lot of the time you need people to be angry with that stuff's not working. And I think a space where there can be learning as well as showing finished work, I think will be really, really incredible to see. And really kind of, if people see that there's a space to learn together, I think that's so much more endearing than watching tutorials in your room by yourself. So that's really exciting for me.
Thanks. Scott?
Yeah, I suppose one of the more exciting things I think was kind of, I suppose, developing or supporting organizations to, you know, to accentuate their digital capacity, you know, and I think that would be great if you can also, there will be support for newer organizations and smaller organizations, because there's loads of businesses, there's loads of organizations that haven't formed here because the infrastructure hasn't been here it's been here on a lower level. So if we really develop that capacity, especially for newer organizations and the infrastructure in general, I think, which is part of the policy in there, I just think that would be such an exciting thing. And I think that will at least have something to retain people here. And I think that's so important when you're developing community and you're developing capacity for people to kind of grow from. I think you need that infrastructure as a foundation. So yeah, that's the thing I'm most excited about, yeah.
Great. Thanks. Joey?
Yeah, I think seeing the acknowledgement of the fact that other industries out there are embracing the skills of digital artists in Ireland, that's a huge thing, because obviously there's a huge commercial element to any of that, particularly film and TV production here. I think if the digital arts art workers or artists are kind of enticed toward that world, then yeah, this type of work will just not exist necessarily. Like, or you know, it just presents a lot more struggles. So I think acknowledgement of that, and then acknowledgement of just like, you know, we're listening to you, like, you know, that they're great things. You know, like there's so much value in that, and hopefully over time we kind of see the benefits of it as well. So,
Richard.
I was just thinking, just listening to the others talk there about resources and infrastructure. Like, you know, one of the things that we've found at Digital Art Studios, especially post-COVID, is just this real desire for artists to want to connect to each other. Okay, we can provide them equipment, we can provide them the facilities, the studio space, the desk, the computer, but actually it's really the connections that you said, I need to find somebody working with Unreal. Like, we sort of notice that all the time. And so, yeah, I think those things are kind of really important. And it made me think then again back to whenever you were asking, like, what I would like to see out of this as well. Like, it's that sharing of knowledge, like, needs to cross the border as well. Like, there's no need for it not to. I think that would be really great to see that really expand out, I think.
Well, I think bringing ye collectives, all of you together today, is a good starting point to start sharing that knowledge, because it's your first time all meeting. So that's really exciting. And I think that's why this was a great idea to put this panel together. I'm just going to kind of wrap now because I'm conscious of time. The policy is now live for all of you to read and engage with. I hope you get to read it or want to read it. As I said, we'll be working with the Arts Council to deliver the policy over the next few years. We're very excited about that, and it's going to be great. It's really exciting for the sector, and it's very exciting for the first impressions from our panellists. Thanks again to everybody. Thanks especially to the panellists and to Brian for launching. And thanks everyone for coming.